Alright, abusunya yebemo bibia akwaba sronkoso aba POG Media so. Masho sa afi no aba dwumadi so a. Obe like no subscribe na afi so etima share dwumadi no. Ama afofro so nsa atumi aka. Ensam ekoso my Ghana mo a yenso ya depend say. Brana no. Any political trending stories are make headlines e wo my kronkron Ghana mo no. POG Media ye de beba bedom eye ya bedwafo ene abusuafo. Nende the ensem ene ekoso e wo political hiring so. Eye chaos ene etimiasi Parliament House achese ntokwa esi between eye NDC ne MPP e wo Parliament House wo no. Enye asimkuma na ni nyina ye eye Speaker of Parliament Bagbin wetimi asake 3 MPs every Parliament House wo chese enya de a obesuon omo in ni nyina ye eye quarter or the injunction out to da 3 constituencies here wo chese until say court ebeyi injunction no every eye da constituencies no so no enya de onu Speaker of Parliament Bagbin obesuon omo in way ena de mentime ho ase akwakoba parliament achese ntokwa esi wo ho no enye ntokwa ketua enti agusuame waste time kra me pese mo ba mi akone akwakotie de course ni benansa na ebeko no make sure so wonsam kai bia be share e comment section like share dwumadi no ma fofron so nsa entumi enkabi medamase
doing otherwise of. So again, the point simply is that look, the Electoral Commission, the interested parties, you are parties to the case, you know that the decision is being challenged, you know that the stay is pending, you have to appear to argue out the stay. So don't show up in Parliament, don't present yourself, just maintain whatever situation you have at all. So that's one school of thought. The other school of thought also holds the view that, look, there has to be a court order. A court order that is saying that, look, Alfred, you can't do A or you can't do B. And that in the absence of such a court order, you cannot stop the person from doing what he's doing. And so those are the two schools of thought. And that is how come we come back. And from this update that we are getting from Communal Committee in Parliament, it comes back to what will happen
in the first instance.
Which is why I said that is where the problem is likely to emerge, because it depends on what the clerk himself, a legal practitioner, what position will be taken.
So that is it's a matter of discretion, because you have looked at two instances, and where the pendulum will swing depends on what the decision will be. But it must be stated on fact that there hasn't been any court order to the clerk of Parliament not to allow these 3 MPs who have been declared as MPs-elect by the Electoral Commission for Okaikwe Central, Tema Central, and also Techiman South to be sworn in today as MPs-elect. But so the consequential effect of what we are seeing with what the bailiff has done today in bringing the notice of Parliament to this particular development and the case that is actually pending in court will then eventually be a decision that will be left to the leadership of Parliament to take. Whether or not to admit that, you know what, there is a court case pending. So Tema Central MP-elect, that's Charles Forson, Okaikwe Central MP-elect, that is Patrick Yabuama, and also the Techiman South Member of Parliament, that's Ǎňđr Mensa, who is the outgoing Minister for Local Government Decentralization and Rural Development, stay out of Parliament. Or then the members of Parliament or the leadership of Parliament will say, there's no court order, so these people are going to be sworn in, and then after they're swearing in, whatever the court process that is pending will still continue, and whatever the consequential orders or the court order will be, eventually it would apply.
And just to make the point that the hearing that couldn't take place today has actually been adjourned to the 13th of January. And those who hold the view that you should hold on, they will tell you that if they participate in the swearing in, it will mean that the stay will be moot on the 13th because the order they will be seeking to be stayed had been executed already. So it will be problematic. But we see the possibility of it playing out, not just at the first step, but at the step where the Speaker would also be swearing in the members of Parliament. That could also come in as well. And so that will be when they are done with the election of deputy speakers. And so first, let's run through this process. The clerk will conduct the roll call. When he's done with that, the members will elect, members-elect make nominations for the speaker. And we are saying that voting will be by secret ballot if there's more than one nominee. We don't expect that to happen. The clerk will declare the results. The CJ comes in to administer the oath. Now we go a step further.
But this is for the speaker.
This is for the speaker.
Let's get into the first and second deputy speaker.
It's the same process. The only difference is that the 2 deputies cannot come from the same political party. Then the second step will be that once that election is done, And we know that the NDC has indicated they are going with Akuffo as first deputy speaker. We don't know who the second deputy speaker will be, whether they will yield that to the MPP or not.
We understand that there's going to be some compromise, and all things being equal, that's the former MP is still going to be maintained as a second deputy speaker. We'll see how that plays out. But for Bernard Akuffo, there's something very interesting that we're learning right now. Because if you recall, prior to yesterday, when there was that expressed communication from the president-elect, John Dramani Mahama, rallying all the NDC MPs to back the nomination of the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumanakis for Bagbin, to be retained as MP-elect, that's the Speaker of Parliament. There were other names that came up, the likes of Addo, who has been a Speaker of Parliament before, as one of the considered names as the Speaker of Parliament for this 9th Parliament. That speculation has been put to rest. But we're also learning that Bernard Akuffo, who is a member of Parliament for the Akachi South constituency, actually, the Aveno Ave constituency that was for that Edward Duajaho, who was MP for Aveno Ave in that particular 4th and 5th Parliament. Now, this Aveno Ave constituency is now Akachi South. In fact, Akachi South was carved out of Aveno Ave. So really nothing lost if you look at.
So that's the constituency Duajaho held on to that once he was elected.
There was
because he's a member of Parliament, there's a by-election.
And that brought in Bernard Akuffo.
Okay.
He served 3 terms right now. So essentially what that effectively means is that they're still continuing in that stride and giving the voter region what they deserve in representation in the leadership of Parliament as the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament. So essentially, yes, Duajaho is serving now as a member of the Advisory Council for the transition team for John Dramani Mahama, right? His name came up, yes, as possible Speaker of Parliament. That is not going to happen. But then again, we have somebody from his constituency in the voter region who's been penned down for first Deputy Speaker of Parliament.
So no controversy with first deputy speaker. Second deputy, just not sure of identity, but likely Ǎňģr Siama to be the option. When they cross that hurdle, then this becomes a challenge. The Constitution, the provision and the order says that members-elect take oaths before Speaker of Parliament. Now, what has been happening, and I'm sure when you cross over to the decks eventually to us, the Speaker will administer the oath for the members of Parliament.
Yes.
So that is where another challenge could also come up. Will someone possibly raise the issue and draw the attention of the fact that, well, there are pending processes that have been served? What position would the Speaker take? So 2 steps now. The first step is the roll call, which you've complained about, which is within the control of the club, because at that point in time, there's no Speaker of Parliament. He's the one presiding over the proceedings. But as this second step, the Speaker is the one presiding over that particular election here. And so at this second step, when this is done, it comes to this level in terms of the oath before the Speaker of Parliament. The question becomes, will someone raise the matter? And if it is raised, what position will the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, take in respect of this? Will he take the view that let's put it on hold? Or we take the view that this proceed? But
it will be safe to say that we know the Speaker's publicly declared position, unless he changes it from what he said sometime last week, that he is not going to swear them in. And then there was that legal conversation as to whether he has the power to do so or not. But it's instructive that you make this point about what's going to be happening in this second step. But let's go back to Parliament right now, because that's where all the action is. And the third step that Joseph is going to talk about is very, very important, because there's going to be a point in time at the stroke of midnight, few minutes before the Speaker is eventually elected and sworn in. The Chief Justice is going to be the acting president, because in that few minutes there's going to be no president or vice president. And Ǎňģr right now connecting with us from Parliament with Komala Kloche. Tell us what's happening where you are. Moina, if you can hear me, can you tell us exactly what's happening where you are? Have the MPs started trickling in as expected?
Right, and so, Alfred, exactly that. The MPs continue to trickle in at this particular point in time. But outside of that, we're picking word, in fact, firm confirmation on the ground that the Court of Appeals court processes, which were expected to have been served on Parliament a lot earlier, that has been done at about this time. My colleague Komla Kluche has just been getting the scoops with respect to that. He's joined me right now with full details and confirmation with respect to what these injunction applications are and which specific constituencies they will be affecting. Komla, you've got the details. Walk us through it right now as you've been getting it.
Okay, so what we know is that the bailiffs of the court have served the processes on Parliament. This was done just shortly after the dissolution of the 8th this afternoon, and the constituencies are the Tema Central, Techiman South, and Okaikwe Central. These are the ones the NDC has taken to the appeals court, and they have filed an appeal, and if they have equally filed a stay of execution. Parliament has been put on notice. My understanding is that the individual MPs also, which I've not been able to confirm from those individual MPs, but what my sources are saying is to the effect that yes, these MPs have equally been served, and so they are aware. And for now, it beholds on Parliament as an institution, and whoever the Speaker is going to be, hearing Speaker Bagbin, to make that decision or to take that decision whether to go ahead with it or otherwise. A lot of lawyers have explained it. The mere fact that you've filed a process, especially if it's a stay of execution, it does not necessarily mean that you cannot go out. It's a risk that they can take. But there is also the other argument, the other leg of an argument, that no, you need to hold on to it because its likely implications on the individual or the institution are quite dire, and so it now beholds on the Speaker. I've seen the deputy clerk who is in charge of registration, Camilo, right down there in the discussion with the Honorable Kwame Govins Agboja and Neelante van der Poel, and also yes, Ahmed. So he is in the spectacles. I'm not too sure what the discussion is all about, but I'm sure all of this have been brought to the attention of the table office. If you say the table office, I mean the clerks are the ones in charge. The table office, yes, the desk just in front of the Speaker. That is what we call the table office. But I mean, it's quite clear now that yes, of course, the NDC has been working tirelessly. We already know what the situation with Fantiakwa is, and we also know of Akwetia. If it's anything to go by, it means that the NDC has been working hard to ensure that these MPs do not get sworn in. And if the Speaker will want to go by it, that will remain a decision of his. As to whether they are even going to enter the chamber, it's also another matter altogether. But as we speak, we do not even find a single end. I mean, as we speak now, we do not have a Speaker. The 8th has already been dissolved, and so until that is done, and so the table office just have to wait patiently to see what the actions of Speaker Bagbin, who already has made known to the public his stance on it and what action he will take. So it's quite a dire thing that we will still have to do monitoring of and see to what extent this is going to go. But quite clearly, it's quite obvious that the NDC doesn't want those MPs sworn in because the matter is yes, as we speak now. Right,
Komla, thank you. And so, Komla, with the details there, but if you go back onto the floor of the House, you continue to see a lot more of the NDC MPs who've come through. And interestingly, the Asante Akim North Member of Parliament is seen hugging outgoing Odododio MP Neelante van der Poel, and he has already taken a seat behind the majority, the right-hand side of the Speaker, which is the majority side. He's also indicated his willingness to caucus with the NDC, and he's made his way onto the floor of Parliament and has been seated there. But we get a sense that a lot more of them will be seeking to do that.
We get that indication, not just him, and we already know. I think about two more MPs, the Afram Plains South also has.
There's one other seat up in the north.
Yes, they've all made their intentions quite clear. That's I think that's
Willency.
Absolutely. And these are NDC members who had issues with the party but went independent. The Brokrands went independent and then they won. But they have equally registered their interest in doing business with the NDC. The issue about A+ as well has come in. This morning there was some fire on his page, and it does appear he's equally going to be doing business with the NDC as well. So it appears that the independent candidates are, of course you can understand why that is, because one, your constituents need development, and if you're siding with an opposition, the MP is a development agent. They need to lobby. It will be easier for you if you do business with the RCA. Many people have said, oh well, I mean, he will
firebrand in his nature and all of that.
He will really show that true independence. I mean, we need to wait and see how it is. He has a lot. He has a lot of work to be done. And this morning we saw him take on quite heavily the General Secretary of the MPP. So, of course, it's quite clear it's not going to say whether. But I think one of the very important things, if you look also at the nomenclature and how the MPs are going to be seated, they are likely, from indications, okay, yeah, so we will get that bit when we speak to Rosin Dafiamepo on this. But I mean, with the way the numbers are, it's really clear that there's going to be a spillover into the other side. But what remains key is to the effect that the MPP has registered and I put a notice that they are not going to be a walkover, and I trust that they are not going to be a walkover, knowing the caliber of leaders they have now. People may see or say that their numbers are few, and a lot of descriptions herein given to them, but they are not going to be a walkover. They will register their stance on issues, and they will not take it lightly when they have to make their points very well known and clear.
We were just seeing Sam George as well coming in some very traditional regalia at this particular point in time, much to the cheers of his colleagues. But just on that point, Komla makes as well with respect to the NPP, who will be the minority soon, not being a walkover. Their leader, Alexander Penyo-Markin, earlier today when he was delivering his speech towards a dissolution of the 8th Parliament, made it very categorical statement. You touch one, you've touched all, and that's the position they are taking into the 9th Parliament. We're still seeing a lot more of the clerks' pictures being taken here and there, and preparations really underway. We're going to be hearing from Roxy Nelson Dafiamepo shortly. He will join us, and then we can perhaps also subject these latest we're getting with respect to the court bailiffs having serving the injunction applications and the likes on Parliament as well. But this is what the House is looking like at this particular point in time. And Alfred, that's what we know at this particular point in time. Injunction applications been served. We await to see really how it all plays out when the clerk will be expected to begin that roll call, and whether or not there will be acrimony, animosity, or misunderstanding really from the side of the NDC with regards to these constituencies which are still under litigation. And then we can be able to make some headway. I'm going to now try and find Roxy Nelson Dafiamepo, and then we'll return to you shortly again, Alfred.
Okay, great. By now, thank you very much. And stay with us here on your Election Command Center. This is the continuous coverage of the dissolution of the 8th Parliament and the inauguration of the 9th Parliament. And we'll segue into the swearing in of the President-elect John Dramani Mahama tomorrow morning. So this is the place to be here on your election command center. But let's go straight back to the magic wall. And Joseph, Eric Mayonegbeta and Komla Kluche briefly talked about the Asante Achim North constituency and then also for Gomwa Central for Kwame A+. We had a conversation with him earlier today. He's indicated that both MPP and NDC are having engagements with him, and he's here to take a decision who he's going to caucus with. But it appears that if you listen to him quite closely, he says he's seeking the interests of his constituents, and whichever one is going to bring development to him, he would align. But the dynamics about these independent members of parliament is pretty interesting, is it not? Because you look at Ohene Kwame Frimpong, Asante Achim North, he defeated Andy Apiakubi. Yeah. You know a bit more about him. Tell me.
I mean, he's a businessman. I mean, he's the one who is behind the Salt Media Group. And so that is the main business that he engages in, but he has other businesses as well. It's very difficult to pin him down to any of the political parties. But what we know for a fact is that the comments and suggestions have been made that, look, because of Andy Apiakubi's spirited attacks on the government and also the finance minister, remember the issues surrounding the Ken Must Go and all of that. Yeah. It was believed that the governing New Patriotic Party basically supported him to get Andy Apiakubi out after they couldn't do so in the primaries. And so it is believed generally that, well, he may lean towards the MPP side, but we do not know any action he's taking publicly such that we can connect him directly, or unless you know of some that we do.
Well, he has stated in a public interview that he is going to caucus with the NDC. And I found that really interesting, because for him to be one of from the MPP stock in an MPP stronghold, Asante Achim North, you must have connections with the MPP to win this seat. He says that he's going to do business with the NDC. If it's because of the interests of his constituents to bring development to his constituents, because it is widely known that the members of parliament who belong to the opposition.
All right, Abusia, into winning some matches, a course, so our political hiring, such as a Speaker of Parliament, Aban Babin, what's me, Asake, a 3 MPs, such as or chess, a Nadia, or Besson, or in Ninaye. A court injunction or the two omo constituencies in so arches constituencies in a Tema South, Techiman South, and Achese, or Kaikwe Central is declared down for and other constituencies MPs as the MP-elect court, and this is also the Kodan court the injunction. Atuso and the speaker say. As far as our court injunction at Tussonade, and Nadia or Besson in and the answer or Chinatese, Aquacoye, he, or Parliament House, and Yasim Kuma. And Tabusham, the Messiana Madame somebody penny kuti sama a course so our political hiring. Aha, POG Media, any political training stories, sir. A make headlines, no, I had him say, and I was a update in Madamas.